and we paid $150. But this room alone cost me $11,200.
The sunroom.
This room, yeah, in that attic back there. You know, the attic was extra.
Oh, you added on the attic.
Yeah. Because we were thinking we need storage. So we asked that carpenter, Joe Hill. He was a master carpenter, real smart. Did all this by himself. All these rafters.
One-man job? Wow.
And when he had to do rafters, he'd get his son to help hold it up and that. Other than that, he did it all himself.
Okay, so you bought the place.
Yeah.
So was it a hard...
Bought it in April of 1989.
Do you remember talking to your kids about it? Ken, Lynn, and Laura going, hey, we're moving.
No, not originally, no. Now, your mom knew. She was with us when we found this place. You know, we found it in January. And her and I, always went to Florida. And that year, I didn't drive, we flew into Fort Myers. Then we stayed in Holiday Inn in Naples for 3 nights. And then we drove from there, because I rented a car, to Fort Myers Beach. And we stayed at a place called, and that's where you were, you were little then, at the Bucket. It's called Buccaneer.
Mm-hmm.
But it was one of the only 2 places on that beach that rented by the day. It was that Buccaneer, and it was the Sandpiper. If you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the yellow place. The only 2 you could stay a day or 2 or 3. So that was the story. Then we just fell in love at Fort Myers Beach. You know how pretty it was. And
well, how does that relate to this place?
this place?
Yeah. Because
we flew in, when was it? We flew in March to Fort Myers to I think we stayed like 9 days in that area. We were discussing it. We had made a bid on it, okay? And the guy didn't accept it. He wanted 170, and I said, well, we're not going any higher. So I remember sitting on the airplane with Grandma, talking about it. She said, what do you think? I said, hon? Because she was always afraid to take a chance. And I said, well, listen to this. I says, we put a bid on it. If we get it, fine, we'll have to fix it up. If we don't get it, no big deal. And if we get it, don't like it, we can sell it. She said, yeah, that's true. So she was the hard sell on it? Yeah. She was very, skeptical. Because we had to go in debt. Because we sold our Trenton house for $95, and this is $150. So I had to go to the bank, and Onstead Bank, and ask the guy, he was real nice, for a mortgage, loan. And then they did an investigation on us, and I had to write a letter to the board, Onstead Bank board, telling them what my intention was, that I'm retiring up here from being a police officer for 33 years. And they gave me the money. And we paid them back like in 4 years, her and I. That's pretty quick. Yeah. So do you remember the moving? Was it I hired movers. Headache to move in? It wasn't as bad as this. And I was in that house for I don't know how many years. How long did you own the Trenton house? I don't know. Let's see, we bought it in 1960, I think, or 59-60, and we sold it in 94. So we had it a long time, but I don't remember all the hassle moving because nobody helped us. It was just her and I. The kids were teenagers and they were no big help. And then we hired 2 men in a truck, and they moved us from Trenton to here. It was like, I don't know, it wasn't a lot. It was like $650. So what was when you guys first moved in? What do you remember
the neighbors like? What was the? Did you guys have to get used to the lifestyle? Was it different? Did you remember liking it or?
Well, yeah, it was different. You know, from Oscoda. Oscoda was strictly what they call a cottage lake. You know, there was a few homes, but a lot of cottages. Where this Lake Columbia was just the opposite. There was a lot of homes and a few cottages. And the first person we met when we bought this property was Linda Dale. She was out doing something in January, and it was all iced over. So I went over there and introduced myself, and I told her.
So you guys moved in January?
No, we moved.
But when you just
April,
okay, yeah,
April 1989. But in January we found this place, and we liked the layout. You know, water on both sides. Needed a lot of work, but you know, Grandma was a worker. She loved wallpaper and all that. And I was a good painter back then. So I painted all the bedrooms. I stained this. But it sure paid off. But anyway, I asked Linda Dale that back in January when it was all iced over, you know, what kind of beach do we have? Because in Oscoda, we had a muck, black dirt beach, and it was nasty. Here, she said, oh no, she said, this is sand and gravel. She said, you won't be sorry, because she says, my kids play on the beach here, and she said, you won't have a problem with muck here. So that was, you know, very important to us. So like I said, I remember flying for our vacation to Florida, talking about, you know, our last offer was $150, because I started like $139.5 or something, and went up to $150, and he came down, and I think my last bid was $145, and he wanted $150, and Grandma and I figured, well, we're not going to budge because we can't afford any more of that. So what the realtor lady did, when you sell property, anybody in a real estate business can sell it for you. But if you're the one that signed the contract, you know, you have first bids on the price. And I told the lady back then, I said, you know, we can't go 150. That's what he wanted, 150 from 170. And my last bid was 145. I remember that. So we flew to Florida, and I think I got a phone call, because we had to put $1,000 down for good faith, you know, that we're serious about your property, and if you accept it, they get $1,000 deposit immediately. And she called me up and she says, I think you got that lake house. And I said, yeah, what happened? She says, well, he wouldn't come down below 150, and your bid is 145. The listing realtor and the lady that we talked to was like, you know, subsidiary, another company. They split out of their profit. They paid the extra $5,000 for us to get this place. Now that's unusual.
Yeah, that sounds unusual.
It's unusual, but it happened. You know, it was just fate. Next thing you know, I get a phone call. You know, I'll FedEx some paperwork, because we had just started our 9-day vacation up there, and she sent it up, and you know, I went to the post office and got the zip code and all that for Naples, and it came into Naples, the paperwork. So I had to sign something and send it back, and that the rest is history. We got the property, and we used it from 1989 till 1994 as a cottage. We'd come up on weekends from Trenton, and I was painting, Grandma was wallpapering. We didn't put this room on till 1994 when I retired. I had some extra money, and this was just a deck, but real solid, you know.
So did you have the boat up here yet? Or did
No.
you buy all that stuff after?
No, the kids bought the three kids chipped in and bought the first pontoon boat here.
And when did you get the speedboat here?
The speedboat I had in Trenton. I had bought that because I wanted the, you know,
That like mustard yellow.
yeah, it was. And that was a good boat. The only trouble was four horsepower, no, not horsepower, but 4-cylinder, and it was rough picking skiers up, you know, like me, my big butt, and Joe, and all that. But once it got up going, it worked nice.
Mm-hmm.
But I had that in Trenton.
So you lived in Trenton, 89 to 94, and this was the cottage. How often did you guys come up? Was it pretty
We'd come
frequent?
up like every couple of weeks. We'd come over here and do something, you know.
Even in the winters, or even in when it wasn't nice up here?
Yeah, because when we looked at this place, we made sure we had a furnace. You know, the water was bad here, very, very skunky. So I called a couple of people up.
Yeah, did you have to have not hot water?
Yeah, because the people owned it that never put a system in. They had direct well water. And the well water here, it's very irony, you know, and a little bit of a rotten egg taste, like sulfur.
Yeah.
So we went with Culligan. Culligan put the system in, and it was still, when he put it in, it wasn't the best. So I called him up again. And I said, "Hey, I'm not satisfied," and I think it cost me like, I don't know, $1,200 for them to come up and do the piping and everything, because the well was already in. My well is right behind me here. Anyway, he says, "Well, the only thing we can do is put a charcoal filter in your system and see if that'll help." Well, it did. But I have to replace it like every 6 weeks. I got to put a new filter on.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes the hard water out smell, you know. If you take some water, you can drink that. There's no problem.
Mm-hmm.
But I just didn't drink it because it's, what do you call it? It's conditioned water with salt. And salt is not good for blood pressure. And at that time, I had a little bit of a high blood pressure. I decided not to drink that water. I'd buy water. And but like I say, it held up. That system underneath that crawl space is probably, what, 20, I've been here 30 years, probably 20, maybe 28 years old. Probably due for a new one, really, whoever buys this.
Mm-hmm.
But
so when you moved, so did your sisters ever come to this place?
no.
Really? Never?
No, the sisters and I had a falling out with our mother's death. They were mad at me because I didn't consult them when the doctor told me, because I was her representative, told me that, you know, she can't breathe because her lungs are so bad that her lungs like calcified, like dried up, some crazy disease, because she was no smoker. And they had to do a tracheotomy.
Mm-hmm.
Call that a trach?
The trachea, whatever.
Yeah, which means she won't be able to talk again. But it won't hurt her. She'll be able to breathe easy, and she can write. So I signed a paper for the doctor to do the surgery. Well, they got pissed at me for that.
Why?
They said that I should have consulted them three. Ed wasn't no problem. He knew I did the right thing. But the girls were pissed at me ever since.
I don't know if we talked about it. So when did your mom pass?
In the 70s, she was what? She was 69. She was going to be 70 in November 5th, I think. Her birthday was in November. My dad's birthday was in March. But, you know, it gave her, you know, she understood, because, you know, and I could talk to her, and she understood. She just couldn't verbally talk me back. She had to write her thoughts on paper.
How long was she like that? How long did she live
Oh.
after that surgery? You remember?
God, I don't know, maybe 8, 9 months. Because Medicare paid for, quite a bit, but then after a while, they shipped her to a nursing home.
And where was all this at? Was this in downriver?
Trenton, Michigan, yeah, downriver. But they shipped her to Allen Park because it was a cheapest home for her.
And what is your memory of that place?
Just nasty,
Really depressing.
I felt so bad for her, because I had a young family. I couldn't stay. Her and I were close. My mother and I were close, and I couldn't stay with her all the time. I did the best I could, but I had a family, had a job, and she understood. And she was there for about a week, and then her doctor was very progressive. He had a friend in University of Michigan who was doing experimental medicine on the type of problem she had. It wasn't cancer. It was something else. And they shipped her to U of M. And when I went to see her the next day, she looked really good. The medicine was working, but it was just, it wasn't a long, it wasn't going to bring her back, but it made her life more comfortable. But she lasted maybe a week there and, failed, and we lost her. And like I say, back then, the girls were still out, Finally, after several years, the oldest one, Barbara, wrote me a letter apologizing. She said, Bernie, I thought about, the situation between us, and I know now you did the right thing, please forgive me. That really nice letter. And I wrote back. I says, okay. I says, no problem. I said, I'd like to come up and see you. In the meantime, she moved up to Houghton, where you were, up in that area, a town called Linden. I don't know if you ever went to Eagle Point at all. Okay. Did you go to that campus? That
we were
MIT?
We were in the Porcupine Mountains. That's kind of close, but no.
Yeah. No, okay. Well, anyway, she settled up there, which was a mistake. Because the winters, how they had 5-6 foot snow level. And she had no money like that. Her husband was a mechanic for Wayne County Roads, and they had a buyout, and he took it. He got like a $1,000 bonus plus a small pension. And he couldn't qualify for Social Security. He was too young.
So where were your other sisters at?
The other, well, one, Janice had the money. She was shrewd and a hard worker. And she worked for Amtrak. And she lived in Romulus, Michigan. And Agnes, the youngest one, she had one daughter. She moved to Tennessee. Her daughter married a musician from Nashville. And she moved to Tennessee. Like I say, I saw her one time at a reunion, but she wasn't receptive to, making up and getting together. Because her husband, what's his name? I can't think of his first name. Oh, Ron. Ron Dandy was his name. Because Ron come over, he said, boy, I wish you and your sister would make up. I said, hey, hold it. I told her, I'm willing to make up and get on being a family. But I said, she's not meet me halfway, so it's not going to work. And that's how it ended. I haven't seen her since.
Is she still alive?
She's still alive, living in Tennessee with her husband and daughter.
And what is the age difference again between you and...
Oh, God, 13 years.
Between you and the youngest?
That was 15.
And then...
Me and Barbara was 13 years. So then Janice came on a year later. Then 2 years later was born, Agnes came along. So Agnes is 15 years younger than I am. But that's just how families go, and it takes two people.
So
Anyway,
when did Barbara die?
Barbara died young. She didn't take care of herself. One time I flew up there by myself when we first made up, and then a year later, Ed and I drove up there and we deer hunted up there. I didn't go to Gaylord that year. I went up there to UP, but there's no hunters up there, and deer aren't stupid. And if you don't have somebody scaring them up, they don't move. They know they're safe in that swamp and they stay there. And we visited her then. We spent a week up there, him and I, but it was a long drive.
I bet.
Well,
Yeah.
You know,
back then
you were up there. Oh, yeah.
And how did you guys drove up? You just had a map and
Just maps, yeah. There was nothing else. I think that highway.
And what were the roads like? I mean,
Well, the roads were still good. There was just nothing there, because when you went from Escanaba, was a gas station, and then you drove all the way over to Lake Superior, there was no gas station until you got to Munising. So you had to be really make sure it was full.
Yeah.
And there was nothing there. I mean, I remember even, very few hunting camps even back then. It was just wilderness. And then we had to get down to where the college is. What the hell is that town? I can't think of it. The only big town in that area. Where the college is. There's a college there. Marquette, maybe? Does that sound familiar?
Michigan Tech? Michigan?
Yeah. No, the Michigan Tech was Houghton. But there was another college in this town. I think Marquette.
Marquette sounds right, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. I think that's what it was. Marquette University. But we drove it twice, him and I. Then after that, she died shortly after that because she was supposed to have lunch with Ed and I. Because at that time, Agnes was living in Southgate with her husband and daughter. And Barbara would come down and stay with her for a week because they were pretty good friends.
Mm-hmm.
And we were supposed to get together. And I never heard from her. Well, I found out that she never made it down. She died. Up there in her couch.
Oh.
By herself because kids were gone. Her husband had died young. He had, colon cancer or something. Yeah, I think, he had stomach trouble.
So depressing up there.
It's very, if you don't have money, if you got money, it's beautiful, But if you don't have money like she did, it was tough because Ed and I always bought groceries for her and, took her out to dinner and fish fries on a Friday. And there were good fish fries up there, too.
Yeah.
They had that white fish. Excellent. But anyway, that's...
What was Ed close to the sisters?
He was close to Janice, the middle one. Him and Janice were good friends. Because I saw her when Ed was sick with cancer. I went over there to see him for a couple hours, and she stopped by with, she made him up some kind of a lasagna or something after him, but he was, full of chemical, that chemo shit. He had no appetite, took a couple of bites. Terrible.
So Agnes...
But I saw her then.
So Agnes is in Tennessee right now.
Yeah.
And what is Janice still alive?
Yeah, they're both. Yeah.
Wow, you really never hear from them.
I heard from Janice. We had a little Olander 2 years ago. We had a little Olander gathering over at the heck is that town? Not far from here. It's not Marshall. God, I can't think of it. I never go there anymore. But anyway, we had a little gathering and she showed up.
Did you talk to her at all?
Oh, we talked to her, yeah. She didn't apologize for anything. We just casually talked, and found out what was going on. She had arthritis real bad.
And where does she live right now?
She lives in Romulus.
Romulus.
Yeah. Then she has a summer home up in towards Alpena, Lake Huron. She had a few bucks. Barbara didn't have much. Agnes didn't have much either. You know. But
So growing up, you were not close. Even then, you weren't close to the girls because the
No.
age gap. You just
the age gap,
yeah.
you know. I had mine. I was dating then after high school, and I went in the Navy. Never saw them. I spent.
So they were like when you were in high school, they were only like 3, 4, 5 years old.
Yeah.
And that just wasn't.
No,
it wasn't even. It's not on your radar, but
because I was already married and had my own family. You know, Lynn was born, and I didn't have no time for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'd see them once in a while over at the farm there where my mom lived.
So when did your dad die?
He died in early 70s.
And your mom was your mom before that? That she lived after?
She was having health troubles when he died. She took it real bad. You know how it is with some people.
Did he die from the car crash?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't take more than 2, because hadn't he been drunk, he might have survived. But antibiotics and booze, alcohol doesn't mix, because they try to save him. But because what he did when he hit that railroad track, his pickup truck, and a witness said he didn't stop at the stop sign. The witness was coming eastbound on Van Horn, and he was going north, coming home about 11:30 at night by himself. And there was a big Olander wedding, and I blame some of his brothers there that they let him drive drunk like that, Because when him and his brother Chester got together, they did drink,
mm-hmm.
and I never. I'm in my mind if I don't want to be like that. But anyway, when he hit that steering wheel, that was before seatbelts. He hit that steering wheel.
Really, then no seatbelts.
No seatbelts. And the witness said he was going like 20 miles an hour when he slowed down by the stop sign. And then he must have saw the lights coming on his left. Then he took a left turn to get it, because it was like a divided highway, and he misjudged it. He didn't go far enough to pick up the westbound lane, and he went in the middle of the 2 railroad tracks, and the rail caught his truck. The frame stopped him dead. What he did, he went forward, and the impact perforated his lower bowel, and that's loaded with poisons, and he died from that.
Wow.
That poisoning, yeah.
So that was after, though.
He lasted what? He died. He got hurt on a Saturday night. He died Monday morning, because Ed and I were with him when he died. He was delusional.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah. They had him all doped up, and just sad, because he's only 61. Because he got. I think he died in the fall, and he would have been 62 in March, and he was going to retire from the steel mill. Never made it. His lifestyle,
I mean, that was just kind of how it was back then, though?
Yeah.
You just worked and
drink.
Yep.
Especially like him, he was an iron worker, and those guys were all heavy drinkers, his brother and him. Anyway.
Okay, so now we're on the topic. So your dad, what was his full name?
Who?
Your dad. Was his full name?
His name was, his baptized name was Constantine Stanley Olander.
And what was your mom's full name?
Her name was. Do you remember? She had no middle name. It was just Eva Cebula was her maiden name.
Okay.
That's how I wound up with the Cebulas, through my mom.
And did she have any brothers or sisters?
Oh, yeah.
So you had uncles. Who were they?
The oldest uncle was Marion. They called him Zip. The next one was Casimir, who was an alcoholic. And then the other one was Butch, my favorite uncle. His name was Stanley, but everybody called him Butch. And Vic, Nancy's father, Victor.
So they were all only uncles on that side. All the Sabula boys,
All the
except your mom.
Yeah,
Was the only.
they had heart trouble. They all died before 57.
Wow.
Five
All
of them.
your uncles.
5 uncles died. Now the Olanders lived longer. Like I said, the Olander uncle, the one who got drunk with my dad, Chester, he died from liver cancer drinking at 81.
So your dad, how many brothers or sisters
He
did he
had
have?
let's see, he had Laura was the oldest. My aunt Laura, nice gal, big woman, big Polak. Then my dad came. Then Chester came, and then my Aunt Mary came, and there's one up there above. There's another one up above that. Let's see, it must have been after Chester was. Her name was Genevieve. We called her Aunt Jenny. She died fairly young. You know, people back then didn't take care of themselves. They didn't go to the doctor for, a yearly checkup or, shit like that. They didn't go through it half dead.
Yeah, sorry. So you had your aunt. So your dad had how many sisters?
Well, he had Jenny, Laura, Mary, and Bernice. He had 4 sisters.
No brothers.
Yeah,
Chester.
Chester, and then the last one was Casimir.
Casimir, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, so big families back then.
Yeah, big families.
What do you remember that? Do you guys remember getting together a lot, or
I remember going there on Sundays. Either Tsibulas or Olanders. We were closer with the Tsibulas. We went there more often than the Olanders. The Olanders, my dad liked to go because they always played cards. We go there on a Sunday for dinner. And I remember Ed and I, before the girls came, Ed and I would sit on a couch, We were told to stay there. And we did. And they went and played cards. And my mother would help her mother-in-law, whose name was Frances Olander, prepare the meal and set the table and that. So,
were those fond memories? Did you or were they?
I had more happy memories at Spula's than I did the Olanders. The Olanders weren't as close to the kids like Tsibulas were.
Mm-hmm.
My grandpa Stanley Tsibula, he was, I'm the oldest of I don't know how many grandkids.
Really, even though your dad wasn't the oldest, but you were the oldest.
No, but he was like a year younger.
Oh, okay.
Laura was the oldest. Then came my dad. Then Jenny. Then Chester.
How was your dad's relationship with all his brothers and sisters? Do you remember?
I think he got along really well, but they didn't come over much back then. Jenny was very poor. Her husband was in and out of jobs. I remember when I was a teenager. Casimir, he had a decent job. He worked for the county also. But then he moved to Dallas, Texas with his daughter. His only son, which was tragic, died. Thomas Olander, Tommy. He died in a car wreck in Flat Rock, Michigan. A bunch of kids goofing off, flying. Well, it hit a tree, and I think like 3 of them died. Only one survived.
So were you close with your cousins growing up?
I was close with the Tsibulas.
The Tsibulas,
not with the Olanders. No.
Okay, so now do you remember your grandfather's name?
Yeah, his name was Thomas Olander.
And what was so on the Olanders side, Thomas Olander, and who was your grandmother then?
My grandmother there was Frances.
Frances and Thomas. Do you remember her maiden name?
Yeah, her main name was Wieczorek, which is a Polish name. Wieckzorek. Wieczorek was her maiden name. My Cebula grandmother was Barbara Cebula. Her maiden name was Sendrowicz, which is a Polish name because they were Polish farmers. And that was like Siendrowicz. Sendrowicz
yeah.
in Polish. Hard-working people, very hard-working. But they never went nowhere. They had a few extra bucks. They didn't travel.
Yeah, what are your thoughts now looking back at that lifestyle? What do you, having lived how you've lived?
They missed so much, because Grandma and I didn't have a lot of money. Grandma never worked full-time. All her jobs, she didn't go to work till the kids got in high school, which was good because I did back then I was working shift work and she'd take care of the kids for us, so we never thought of her going to work till after they got in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And Lynn got in college and we needed the extra money. So she started, working for the dentist and odd jobs, but she never worked full time.
Was that strange, I think, for those back times to, I feel like women in the workforce, was that, you guys just didn't even think about that?
Back then, a lot of women didn't work, and that was in, 50s, 60s, yeah. Because we got married June 1st, 57, and Lynn was born 58 in March. And a lot of women didn't work. They stayed home, to kids. I remember that. But it worked out. I worked part-time jobs, People liked hiring policemen because they knew that nobody's going to screw with you, with property or whatever. So anytime I had to work part-time, I took it. For about a year and a half, I used to do janitorial work with me and my neighbor across the street, Eddie Fritz. I'd work my afternoon shift, get off at 11, I'd come home, had a cup of coffee, and went to work with Eddie for a couple hours.
God, you didn't feel burnt out doing that?
No, it was like a routine for me. We didn't do it every day. We did it like 3 days a week. We'd clean Garnell Ford, we'd clean Allstate, we'd clean a couple of doctors' offices, the extra money. I'd come home 1 o'clock in the morning, jump in bed. Yeah, we did all right for what we had,
Mm-hmm. So was that?
But I love to travel, so.
Yeah, was that atypical for your? What was it? Ed was not like that, right?
Ed and Mary Ann were totally different than me and Pat. They tried one time to go on vacation somewhere in Canada. They booked it and they got there. There was a beat up cabin. The beach was all rocky. They spent 1 or 2 nights there and said, hell with this, we're going back home.
And they weren't big travelers then?
They never explored anything, like I would. I'd study it, get a map, and look where I'm going and what's over there. And yeah, but he didn't.
So what was the relationship with Ed?
Ed and I were really close. We were okay, but we were not real close. He was 2 years younger than I was.
And where did he always live? They lived in
Wyandotte.
Wyandotte.
Yeah.
For forever. Ed always lived.
He when he got married, he lived in Riverview and built a house because his wife, Mary Ann, was still living, who I thought she would have died first because she was a heavy smoker. She's still living. And Grandma, is gone. She's been gone over, 5 years now? Going on 6. But anyway, we're that close,
You didn't see, how often did you see each other, do you remember? I don't remember seeing him much at all.
Mary, I know that. He didn't come over much. But he was also a shift worker, I worked shift, he worked in a steel mill shift work. But Pat and Marianne got along real well because I think Marianne was a year in there in Northville. She's in a assisted living home, you know. Well, the place I'm going is not considered assisted living. It's, I don't know what they call it.
So with now that you brought up Ryan, do you remember?
It was Brian. My nephews were Brian, Mark, and Kevin. Three. That's the three I was close with. But I don't know. They didn't have the family life like me and Grandma had. Because Kevin got picked up by the wind-up police of marijuana way back when it started in the late '60s, and all kind of trouble. He had trouble with especially him, Kevin. They weren't as close like me and Grandma were with our kids, because he had a lot of heartache. Again, with Kevin.
And you guys, so you and Ed weren't close, and you
not real close.
You
no,
didn't do stuff with your families together a lot.
We'd get together maybe on a Sunday, you know, every couple of months, stuff like that. But they didn't come over our house too often. We were always over their house in Wyandotte.
When did Ed die again? Do you remember?
Died 12 years ago.
Wow.
From bladder cancer. But again, he was a heavy smoker. He started smoking at 16. And back then, nobody knew it was bad. You know, everybody smoked almost. I didn't, because I tried it when I was in the Navy. But I didn't like it. I didn't like the taste in the morning. I had a locker, you know, they give you a small locker for your clothes. I'd open my locker up, I could smell those cigarettes. That's the first week. And I just gave up. My doctor said it's the best thing you ever did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I gave up cigarettes. I gave my buddy the rest I had 2 packs. I gave him what was left over. I don't know if he's still living or not. He was a kid from Toledo. But I thank God I didn't smoke. I'm still here. So, in fact, I lost a lot of buddies, younger than me, at cops, who retired and boom, gone. 2 got killed. One was on a motorcycle. One drunk driver killed the other guy up north. Traverse City, in fact. But there's a few of my buddies still living. But we're all getting older now, and what are you going to do? That's life.
Yeah. So you and Graham moved here in '94.
We moved here May 1st, 1994. Because that's when my retirement started, May 1st.
And then, I was born in '91. When were we living here? In '93?
You were here, I think, '94. At the end, you were here in cold weather, because I remember I came home from deer hunting.
So that's
downstairs.
my parents sold.
They were living
their
here
place and
because they were building.
And
I remember little Mackenzie. I come home from deer hunting with Cibulas and about 4 o'clock, and I remember coming in, and everybody was down in the family room, and Grandma said, "Sit down a minute. We want to show you something." I said, "Okay." So I sat there while they took little baby Mackenzie. They took her by the fireplace. She says, "Okay, now go see Grandpa." And you know, she was, you know, I still remember that. Just a little round head, big eye, you know, Mackenzie, dark hair like yours.
What were your memories of? When you became a grandparent, were you and Graham excited about that with, Paige and Brooke and me? And
Yeah. We used to drive up there every month, all the way to Kitchener, because I wasn't happy Lynn marrying a Canadian. I said, "You know what you're doing."
Yeah, what was that conversation like?
Well, the conversation was she was dating this guy, Joe. I don't know, 8-9 months. And then all of a sudden, I get a phone call from Joe saying, you know, your daughter and I love each other. We'd like to get married with your blessing.
Really, that was only after less than a year?
About a year, maybe. They were dating long distance. Mostly over there. Lynn would go there more than Joe would come here. Because he never stayed overnight in my house. So I had a talk with Lynn. I said, you know what you're doing? Because she's already, you know, 24 years old, whatever, been a nurse, well established. And I said, that's a foreign country. You know, I know it's right next door and all that, but their system's different than ours. Well, Dad, I love him. And I said, okay, if you know what you're doing.
And that it wasn't contentious then. It wasn't
No. It's just the idea I wasn't happy with that. And you know, Grandma, she's always tight mouth. She didn't say much. She didn't say, well, what do you think? Or I didn't ask her, what do you think?
Really,
No.
She didn't. You don't remember her
She's
speaking
just
about it?
Not a word. No, just Lynn's getting married, and that's it. But it worked out, you know.
We were living in my mom and dad were living in.
I was living
Dearborn,
in Trenton. Then I moved here.
and we were living in Dearborn.
I used
They
to
were
come
in
over.
Kitchener,
We used to come over to your house quite a bit.
and then Uncle Kenny was in
Kenny,
North Carolina by that time in the early '90s.
early 90s, let's see. He left. Yeah, he was.
Mm-hmm.
He was, because he graduated in '83 from state in December. And that year we had a recession, and he couldn't find a job. So I got him a job with that Sandtop Transportation at Willow Run Airport. I got him in there working nights. And he made good money there, and, you know, he adjusted.
So, but then you and Grandma were bouncing back because you were almost retired by then, right? You were at the end of your career.
Let's see.
In the early, yeah, because you didn't retire until...
I was still working. Oh yeah, I worked through the '80s till '94. You know, all my buddies left, but I didn't leave.
And you were bouncing back between Canada and Dearborn and Trenton to just see the grandkids. That was kind of the lifestyle.
Yeah, that's what it was. Then it was in Kitchener.
And you didn't have did you have the cabins up?
I bought that. Let's see. I had to buy that cabin in the early '80s. The first one, Crystal Mountain, they talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I had 5 acres there with a cabin. Again, we fixed it up, and I tripled my
But
money.
I was wondering more about, like, were you going up north a lot when you had the
No.
grandkids
The only time
were
I
here?
went up north
Yeah.
is we took a couple of vacations with the kids up to Houghton Lake. And one year we went to another place. We took Barney and Dora with us, but it was kind of a old up north cabin. You know, it wasn't fun. You know, you booked it and thought it was nice, like Ed Marianne. You know,
And then
there was no beach, and we never went back. You know, we'd go out to dinner and cook out hot dogs and hamburgers, you know, outside, and had a good time. Fire, you know.
so
Just
then,
me and my father-in-law Barney got along real well. He was good company, good guy.
and then you guys moved in here and permanently you sold the Trenton house. You moved in here.
Yeah.
And you remember being pretty active. Me growing up with Mackenzie with the because they moved. When did Joe and Lynn move to?
Well, Lynn and Joe
Tecumseh.
moved to Tecumseh because with the Canadian Post Office, you can move to another station if there was an opening, and they would pay for your moving.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So Joe did that.
The government. God, that wind. But anyway, they moved closer, which made it easier, you know, because the house they lived in, you were probably over there, to Joe and Lynn's house, where Lynn's living now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was brand new. That was a brand new subdivision. That area was just growing. and they got a good price on it.
Were you and Graham happy about that?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because it was way closer.
Yeah.
I mean, how far was the drive from
oh my God, it was terrible.
to Kitchener?
It was over 3 hours.
Yeah.
In fact, at one time, who was it? Brooke was born, or was it Paige? But I was working. I couldn't get off work because we were short help. And Grandma jumps in a car with Nona. I said, "You gonna drive all the way by yourself?" "Yes, I got to get to the hospital and see how Lynn's doing." She drove all by herself with Grandma, and it was not an easy drive. You figure you went through all those towns on 401, way past St. Thomas and all these other towns, Woodstock, and you had to get off the 401 and know where you're going to get to Lynn and Joe's house.
And they did it.
And she did it. I don't know how she did it, but she amazed me, I'll tell you. I said, if you get a chance, you call me if you got trouble. But damn, they took off in the afternoon and
Did you have 2 cars then?
Let's see. No.
Or did Nona have a car?
No. Nona had a car. Her and Barney always had a car. But no, back then we only had one car. It was a Pontiac. I had a real nice Pontiac, burgundy. A good car too. I like Pontiac. I like General Motors. Cars better than Ford or Chrysler. But she took off and made it.
And then so
I met her, by the way. I took a train ride. I think Uncle Ed dropped me off at the train station in Windsor, and I got a ticket all the way to Kitchener by myself. And that's when I met a guy there that, because the train was full. Everybody was going to Toronto. And Kitchener was, an hour from Toronto, this side.
Mm-hmm.
And the last stop, a guy got on. Tall, older guy. I was in my mid-50s then. Good shape. I jogged every day. And anyway, he sat down, we got talking and introduced ourselves. And he said, I said, I want to farm in Stratford. I said, where you going? He said, I got my boy. He's got some tickets for my birthday at Toronto. Just put a new stadium with the cover. And he got tickets for it. And his son was celebrating his birthday. I said, do you have a family? He says, yeah, I got a couple of kids, but he said, I lost my wife last year. I said, you did? And he was probably, if I was 52, 53, he was probably, pushing 70, good shape. And he says, yeah, I lost my wife. I said, you did? He says, yeah. And she was fairly young. She was, maybe 70 or something. I said, what happened? He says, you ever hear of cancer? Cancer was just coming then. He said, you ever hear of cancer? I said, no, not really. I heard of heart attacks, strokes. But cancer back then was just starting with people. I said, gee, what happened? He said, she died of cancer. I said, God, where's that come from? I said, I hear that every now and then. And reading the paper about so-so died of cancer. He said, well, let me tell you. He said, I grew up on a farm way back. He says, we use no chemicals and produced in our crops. We use manure, natural. Now, these companies, Dow Chemical, Monsanto, and all those are coming up with.
So you remember those companies back then, Dow and Monsanto?
Yeah, because Monsanto was in Trenton.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
they were Michigan-based?
What?
Michigan-based, Monsanto was?
It wasn't their headquarters. I think it was headquarters in St. Louis, but they had a plant there because it was on the Detroit River, Oh, yeah. And he said, between you and I said, I think that chemicals are getting into our food, through the crops.
Wow, so you remember those conversations back then about it? Well, that was what?
I remember that.
In the early 80s or?
Well, let's see.
Late 70s, 80s?
I was still a cop then because I got off on midnights, and Ed dropped me off, and I caught the train. And Joe picked me up in Kitchener. So, well, see, Lynn was born in 58, 68, 78. So it had to be late 70s when I ran across this guy. And I don't know if it was Paige or if it was Brooke was born, but anyway, that's what she drove down.
They were born in the late 80s, Paige and Brooke.
Were they?
Yeah, because I was born in 91, and Paige is 6 years older than me.
Older? So what is that? Back up then.
85, mid-80s.
Okay, that's what it was.
Okay.
Because I think back then I was still a sergeant. I didn't move up yet. But I was going to night school, college. And that's what helped me move up.
So then they moved to Tecumseh. He got the transfer. They moved to Tecumseh in the late 80s. Then.
Yeah, Lynn talked him into moving. And at one time, Lynn was talking about moving into the States, but he wouldn't go. Joe said, I'm a Canadian. I'm not going to the States. Oh, yeah, he was stubborn sometimes. You couldn't tell him. He had his mind made up. You couldn't tell him. But I said, hey, that's what you chose him. You got to live with it.
Well, Tecumseh wasn't that big of a deal, though.
No, we can go over there in 45 minutes. I was at her house from Trent. Yeah, a lot of old memories. A lot of fun.
And then you retire, and then my memory is you and Graham were just around all the time with us. You were always
like I say,
between this place or either coming to Saline or going.
Yeah. In fact, that one time I drove over there just before I was already lieutenant, and just before I retired, I don't know, I had a couple of weeks to go. I was on my lunch hour, and I drove all the way from Trenton to where you were living in Dishbourne. You're just little, and I had lunch with your mom and I. Your dad was working, and just Unique, your Mackenzie were there, and I was in my uniform in my police car. But anyway, that's this old history. But that's when it was. That was the era, 80s.
So then,
Kenny moved down to Atlanta and found jobs and came home, got his clothes and that, and he moved down there.
So when you retired, how was that lifestyle switch? Did you like not working or what?
I missed it. I had 33 years as a police officer, and my last 6 years I worked steady days, and I got weekends off. That's when we used to run up here and paint, and that's, like I said, I did all
really
this.
For 27 years in the force. You were working the shifts. And then only the last 6 years is when you were there.
Last 6 years I got steady days. And the only people who got steady days were 3 detectives or the traffic bureau, which I was head of. And I had 4 other people that I was in charge of. We worked days, But the other police force, all shift work. That's why a couple of my buddies retired, like 26, 27 years, because as they got older, it got tougher on shift work. There's a couple of those guys like Ralph Raven, Don Jones, two good friends of mine. When they said they're leaving, I said, man, you got it made now,
Well, because they were working the steady.
They were working midnights and days, afternoons, and they got tired of shift work. I said, why don't you hang on for a couple of years? And these guys were lieutenants. The 3 of us were promoted pretty close to the same time. They were road officers, and I took the traffic job, steady days. So on weekends, I'd come up here. I get off shift 4 o'clock in Trenton.
And pick up Grandma? And
Grandma would work at the dentist, and, if she's off, we'd come up here. But the whole house wasn't done. Like I said, we painted everything here.
You remember that being fun? Did you and Grandma work? Do you remember your attitude towards this place back then? Or was it like, all right, let's
Oh
we're
yeah.
gonna do this together?
At first, she could. Okay. Are we almost done?
20 minutes.
Oh,
We're on a roll here.
I know we are, but I'm saying, I'm just reminiscing old memories. No, she was a good gal. She was a lot more mechanical than I was.
What is that? What
Oh
do you mean
yeah.
by that?
I mean, like she wasn't afraid to get a screwdriver and monk around, or pliers or something, or paint. Some woman never painted or wallpaper, and she would. And she loved to do that brickwork. See the brickwork here?
Do you remember that? Do you remember thinking, oh, this is odd? Not odd, but
No.
was that notable to you?
I just, we lived together so long, I just
It's who she is.
expected it.
Yeah.
That's her, Like that one time I think I went fishing. Yeah, started going fishing in Canada. And I come back and she painted that, the room, and the furnace room, that light green. She liked green, as you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
I come home and, come on, I'm going to show you what I did. So I get over there. Holy hell, she moved all that stuff and painted. And she also painted that little, where we keep our cans in that.
Mm-hmm.
That's
The
her
pantry,
paint.
yeah.
She painted that too. Yeah.
So
She liked doing that too. I mean, she should have been a dentist. Because dentist, it has to be a little mechanical. You can't be, we're all clerical. You gotta do it with your hands. And she was good with stuff like that. Just the way it worked out.
And do you remember her liking that job at the dentist office then?
Yeah, she enjoyed it. The money was good. She worked part-time, and we were able to come up here on weekends quite a bit. Yeah, it was a good deal for a long time.
So then you retire, and she stops working too, and you guys move up here full time. So but you said it was an adjustment.
It was
retiring,
because I remember when I retired. I'd get up in the morning feeling like I should go to work. Really, I'd wake up like 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. I should shower, shave, and get to work. I did that for about 4 months before I got out of it. That feeling. Mm-hmm. Well, after all my 33 years.
Yeah, it's in your brain.
Yeah. But I got used to it. I used to jog here a couple of miles, and I did it till I got older. And in the meantime, I was working those odd jobs for Detroit at festivals. That paid good.
So that kind of kept you busy then with every
chance I get a job, I'd take it, I made good money at it, and I enjoy it. It gives me a good feeling again.
Yeah.
I'm productive, And I didn't have to wear a uniform. I just had to dress up and carry a gun. But, I did that for like 11 years.
And how often were you working doing stuff like that? Just a few times a year, with the auto show or the...
I worked at the auto show for 2 weeks. Then I worked at the boat show for a week. And then I worked at a couple of their trade shows, like Kodak and that. Mm-hmm. Big names would come to Detroit. My buddy, who was a Detroit cop, would call me up and say, "Hey, Bern, you want to work?" I said, "Yeah." I didn't turn anything down. A couple of times I stayed at your house there.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, when I was working in Novi, doing festival work. I just guard and, watch, and had a walkie-talkie. If I see trouble, I'd call.
Did you ever see any issues at those?
No, not much. We had a couple of drunks there at Novi. It's a festival. Everybody likes to drink, and, and there's always like three, 4 of us. Nobody from Trenton. The guys I worked with were mostly from Detroit or Dearborn Heights. Because that Detroit cop I told you about, his cousin was a Dearborn Heights cop. And I got in with those guys, so I did a lot of work with them. Mm-hmm. fact, one of the good jobs was he had these, what the hell was it, where they do joust and that. You might have been. You might have
the
went
Renaissance Festival.
there. Yeah, I worked that. I drove my ass off from here all the way to Dixie Highway. It took me like almost 2 hours in a car just to drive to work.
Mm-hmm.
But they paid good, and I enjoyed it. I'd walk around, plain clothes, and just look for trouble or somebody needs help. And they paid me good.
Yeah.
I worked like 10 hours, and I come back home. Grandma didn't mind. The money was good.
And she was content.
She was content with the kids, yeah. Living out here and, telephone. And
I mean, I have those memories of always her on the phone with my mom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She was close. In fact, my lady friend, Gail, she says, boy, you have a close family. Did you come this year to the pool house? You didn't fly up. No, you couldn't get off. We were hoping you'd get off, but you didn't.
No.
You were busy with your program. Yeah. Anyway, she noticed. I introduced her to my family, at the pool house, and we got along well. And she loves our family. She loves that little baby, Brooks.
Yeah, I guess
Brooke was there with the baby, and and would play with her, and that. But that kid knew she's a smart kid. Even with me, she'd look at me. Who are you?
Yeah. How did that? Now that we're onto that, were you excited to be a great grandparent?
Yeah. Well, Grandma was looking forward to it.
I know it's so sad.
And she
isn't
said,
it?
"Boy, one of those kids are going to have to give you a grandbaby." She never told that to the kids, but to me she would.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't happen. She got sick, and the way it goes.
Yeah, what were your... So when you guys moved in here, were you close with the neighbors here at all? Like, what do you remember? What do you remember about the lifestyle of this place? Okay, the summers are always...
No, we knew summers were busy, and the neighbors were good. We never had any problem here. And in fact, we got real close. We used to go once a month. All couples, we'd go out to dinner once a month and get to know each other.
We're at just around Brooklyn here?
Yeah, different restaurants. Jackson, we'll go down to that one, Artesian Wells, where your dad used to go with the motorcycle. We used to go there. They had good food, walleye and that. And no, we were closer. But like I say, out of 7 card players, 4 are already gone. I got Ralph left, and I got Eddie Ponagai and me. That's it, out of 7. They all died.
Yeah, so what is your memory of this place changing over the years? Lake Columbia. What's your thought on it?
It just got busier.
Busier, you think?
Oh, yeah. More powerful engines. We never saw, 110 on
Yeah, these huge boats.
Yeah, now they got three pontoons. They call it, what the hell, tri-toon. That's what they call them, tri-toons. And they're expensive. Like that one out here, or
yeah. So what,
John's? That's $50,000.
So that was the shift in the times here. Was this what used to be a old cottage lake, kind of?
No, it was never cottage lake. This one here, that's why we liked it, because we looked at several lakes, me and Grandma and your mom and dad, and you could tell,
So it's always been
like Wampers Lake is a cottage lake. There's some full-time, but most of them are part-time.
Mm-hmm.
And here, very few were part-time.
Oh, really? It's always been like that, yeah.
Because this house here we moved here in '94. There was 2 lesbian school teachers living there. They built that little house. But they're very nice people. I have nothing against that. They were real nice. This was remember that, empty field. We used to have fireworks. Yeah. And Dale's were always close.
But my memory is all their new houses just start like these renovations here.
Oh, yeah.
The past 5-10 years.
Yeah. Well, look at this one. That's got to be close to $1 million. He's got there. And John, that other couple, the 2 assholes, that's Sue and Chris Wojciak, they were jerks.
Why do you say that? I don't remember.
Just bad neighbors.
Oh, really? Why?
Yeah. I don't know. They were never very friendly. You know, the kids were afraid to talk to us. They'd never talk to you. They wouldn't say
Those girls?
Yeah, the 3 girls. Yeah. And I remember one time when I don't know if you remember or not, but I had a hoist there on that side. And that yellow boat I had.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that boat actually was too heavy for that hoist. And I broke one of those nylon rollers.
Mm-hmm.
And your dad and I were trying to get a cement block underneath it because it tilted a little bit. And we're working our ass off, him and I. And they're sitting there having a beer.
Didn't say anything?
Wouldn't even come over and say, hey, you need help. And him and I were struggling. We finally did it. But I remember after we got done, and I'm thinking, that SOB was on that porch having a cold one, wouldn't come over. That's how he was. No, they were lousy neighbors.
But you liked the Dales on this side.
Dales were good neighbors. Eddie Groskovac, back then that Alice and Paul were good neighbors. We had a lot of good people here. They were closer. Now, like I say, it's a different ballgame because last August, some of the homes down there are turning over, different people. So Linda and who's with her? Maybe it wasn't Alice, somebody else. But anyway, they had a little picnic, and she sent little cards out, meet your neighbor cards, and they had hors d'oeuvres and chicken wings and that at the park here. So I walked over by myself. I don't know, because I said, "What do you want me to bring?" She said, "Oh, just bring some chips." So I bought a big bag of chips, went over there, and we got talking, like 3:00 on a Saturday, and there's not too many people showing up. The people that we knew, Eddie G and all of us went over there. But out of the 4 strange people, not should say strange, new people, out of the 4 new people, only 1 couple showed up. They were fairly young, early 60s, bought a house, just loved Lake Columbia. But the other 3 never showed up. And Linda said, man, what a bunch of deadheads. They don't want to, get to know their neighbors. Mm-hmm. And that section here has a lot of problems, I hear, with neighbors, They don't get along. And one of the houses there has a lot of parties on weekends. And they call the cops, too much noise. Mm-hmm. Well, you live on a lake and it's summer,
I know this time.
Put up with a little bit. I mean, I know within reason, like after 10:00, it's supposed to be quiet time. But anyway, no, it's changing. It's not as friendly as it used to be.
Really? So you remember it being friendlier?
Oh, hell yeah. That's why I don't mind moving to, where am I going? Oh, Lake Seminole, Florida. I don't mind moving because we're not close like we used to be. Mm-hmm. Guys, John Dale died. He's gone. Eddie G, my buddy, he's gone.
Yeah, what's that been like for you with all these people dying?
Just,
You think a lot about it, or?
A little bit, but, I'm a police officer. I've seen death. I've seen suicide. I've seen accidents. I've seen drowning. So, you get a little hard. So it doesn't bother me as bad. But I noticed the feeling that, it's changing. It's not as close as it used to be. Mm-hmm. And I don't mind leaving. I hate to leave all this, but
I know,
there's a lot of work here, Crawling, you saw the crawl space. I always have to go underneath and watch it, and change the charcoal. I don't mind doing it, but I'm getting older now, it's a little harder. But, no, it's a good lifestyle, but I'm ready for...
Yeah, when you summarize, this place has been good to you, though.
Just wait, you can see my place there when you come over. Because I told you, your mom told you, I ordered a real nice couch, pull out, queen size. Kind of a light colored,
You think you're going to...
Beige.
You think, thinking forward, you're going to miss living here, you think? Or
The what?
you're going to miss living here?
Oh, yeah, I'll miss. Yeah, I'll miss that. Oh, hey, I had over 30 years here. day I retired, we moved here. So I would have missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this place has been good to you, I feel like.
It's changed. Not a lot. In some ways it hasn't. You know, the buildings are the same. Some were a little bit, you know, modified. They built this monster here. But like I say, Grandma never saw this because she's already gone. But all the, you know, times we had fires there and fireworks. It's just a good memory. All the memories we had here.
Yeah, when you think about this, what sticks out in your mind of living here? What are the highlights? You know, where you go, wow,
Well, the highlights is just when you wake up in the morning, especially in the summer, and that sun comes up, because we face east, my place. And when that sun comes up, it's beautiful. And then all the good times we had sitting out here with the, you know, hamburgers, hot dogs, and brats. Your dad used to do a good job on brats. I remember, you know, with the chopped onions and green pepper, red pepper. And I miss that. You know, because I don't buy a lot of food because, you know, it just stays in the freezer and I can't eat that much, you know. But anyway, no, we just had a lot of good memories here. We didn't have a lot of big problems, you know. And it flew by. So, like I say, as you get older, Grandma got sick and my neighbors, you know, getting sick.
Yeah, did that change it changes it for you, right?
Yeah, it changes. Because they're still, last year they started again, getting neighbors together once a month to go out to dinner. And it's the same people. We had a couple new ones, but one of them only been here like 4 years, and they got their place for sale. It's that brick one all the way down on the left. If you walk down that way, I think you went down there. Yeah, it'll be on your left side. It's kind of like a yellow brick house. They only been there like 4 years. Yeah, and the people that sold that house to these new people who are moving, they're up for sale. I don't know what the story is. But we knew that couple too that lived there for a long time. They used to be in our circle going out to dinner. His name was Bruce Jones. He was a plumber from Brighton. Good people, but it's changing. Yeah.
Hey, it's time. It seems like it's time.
But it's fun, you know. Like I say, I'm getting older, and I can't believe I'm pushing 90 already. Aunt Lynn's here. I see the blonde head.
All right, we're shutting it down.
Good.